welcome to the Ork Mek Gun magnetizing video. Games Workshop released this kit in late June of 2014 as part of the Ork 7th edition wave. This is a great kit. You've got 4 different builds you can do, and since the codex is only coming out today, I don't know which build I want to do. So rather than being limited to one, I want to build all 4. So we're going to go through the steps to magnetizing all 4 options. Thankfully Games Workshop has made it relatively easy for most of the magnetizing. There's a few things we have to do and be a little clever with, but it's an Ork product, so that's expected. So here we go. Start off by building the chassis as normal, just following instructions steps 6 through 9. And then once we get to number 10, this is where we have to start adding our magnets to it. So I was able to build it fairly quickly. My only complaint was it wasn't clear on the angle that this piece needed to go out, so I wound up having it a little bit too much of an angle so that the tires weren't actually touching the ground and could spin freely. I do a little bit of bending and it's managed to put it back mostly in place, but that was really my only complaint. Other than that, the instructions are much better than the ones I remember for my previous stuff, or previous Games Workshop products. Nice options you have. You can build either with spiky bits or the tubes. You've got a couple options for the door where the grot's going to sit on the platform there. But overall, so far, really happy with the kit. So, the nice thing about this kit is everything attaches to this gun base, and it does it really well. So in cases of the tractor cannon, the piece just slides on the front there. Same with the Smasha gun piece. The Smasha gun piece just slides right on. A couple other ones are a little bit more elaborate. The bubble chukka, it actually has a piece on the bottom that connects into the guide on the bottom. So you actually have to make sure that it lines up there so it's a little bit further down. Can't slide that one on, unfortunately, which is one of the reasons it's a little bit more difficult. And then lastly, the custom mega cannon's the same way, where it actually goes over top. You'll see that right there, where it connects in as well. So a couple of these we can slide on. A couple of these we're going to have to do we're going to have to use a clip-on. So we'll first start by prepping the gun. We'll call it the gun head, for lack of a better name. We're going to need to put our magnets in the front here. So what we're going to need to do is figure out the length that we need to cut to. Now you can see I've scored this already, because what I did is basically took the magnets, lined them up, figured out the length of the 2 magnets, and then scored a line on both sides. There we go. First cut, make sure it's straight. And there we go. Let's hope it's straight. And do the same thing with the other one as well. So the other one's here, and just take a good look. If it's not quite straight, you can fix it with a little bit of putty. So there we go. So that has now been cut off and ready for the magnet. Skip ahead a little bit to the tractor cannon port, only because there's some groundwork we have to do on the gun head itself. So basically, these 2 pieces interlock around the barrel, the piece in place, and we're actually going to drill all the way through this piece into this one. And then what we're going to use is we'll wind up using the smaller hole as the pilot hole for the bigger magnet, which is the 3/32.
Okay, so when you're drilling the bracket, you want to make sure you're as centered as possible. I found with mine, just because I was having to do it with a camera in front of me, and I didn't brace it as well as I could have, I found that I actually was a little bit off center, and as you'll see, I actually clipped the side of it, or went through the side tiny bit. Now, in hindsight, that actually was helpful, because when I put the magnet in, I actually was able to bend it slightly and fit the magnet in without doing a lot of adjusting of the drill hole. So that actually was helpful, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a plan. Don't see it on camera, but I did put a little drop of super glue in there as well from the top, just to make sure that it was going to stay in place. So next up on the gun head, we're going to use the 3/32 drill bit to enlarge the hole for the magnet there. And just I did check the polarity ahead of time, and just that one went in really easy. And then just put another drop of super glue, just to make sure everything stays in place, because there's nothing worse than your magnets either going through inside or falling out. Don't want to see either of those things happen. So we just did a quick test fit just to make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to, and hey, it worked. I love it when a plan comes together. So next up, each of the 4 pieces or 4 gun options have a top piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off the post of all 4 of those, and we're going to put a block of plastic in just beneath it with a magnet. So this block will be, it's actually a piece of the sprue. It's a 4mm or a 1/8 of an inch long piece, which we drilled a 1/16 magnet into the center of. So what we're going to do is we're just going to it's going to sit just beneath that hole, and then the magnets will sit right in there when the top piece goes in. So we wanted to use some plastic cement. Now the secret with plastic cement, for those who haven't used it a lot, is to make sure you once you put it on, let it sit for 30 to 60 seconds. Just to gives a chance for the cement to start doing what it does, which is basically melting the plastic, so the 2 pieces will blend or merge together. So in this case, you want to make sure when the sides that you're doing are completely flush or straight. That way they'll have as much surface area touching as possible. So I got it in place, doing exactly what it's supposed to. Now I do recommend making sure that small piece dries thoroughly before you continue to put the gun head, the 2 halves together. And again, good coverage both on the connection points of the gun head and on the little piece, the magnet piece that we put in there beneath the hole. One thing I didn't do when I put in the first one was put on the top, which I did on the second. On the other side, made sure there was connection on the top. So once everything's in place, the magnet's directly over the hole, or under the hole, which is what we want. So next up, we're just going to finish on the nose of the gun head. So just sand it a little bit to make sure both sides are flush, and then take an X-Acto knife and just, or a hobby knife, and just score it a little bit, just to give a bit of a rougher surface for the super glue to have something to hang on to. A little dab of super glue, which, as you'll see throughout this video, I have an inability to use just a small amount. So that with this one, we're not really worried. Again, we're not worried about the polarity because this is the first one we're going to use. But as you can see, that's on there pretty good. I tested with a line of magnets. My theory is if it stays hanging on when I'm pulling on it with about a dozen magnets, it's going to stay on there. You can also putty around the nose piece if you want to, just to make sure it stays in place, but I found I was good. So, tractor cannons, we'll finish this off. This we're going to put a 3 30-second magnet into the nose of the tractor cannon piece. A little bit of super glue, and we're being mindful of polarity. What I do is I just stack a bunch of the magnets in a row, so I know what's going to fit, and that also helps me position it properly. So once it's dry, just take off the excess magnets, and then use some of the plastic cement on both sides. And then you're also going to want to use a small dab of the super glue when you get to doing that as well. I don't think sometimes I was a little less patient in waiting for the super glue to do, or sorry, the plastic cement to do what it's supposed to, and you can tell. I find you can test fit it ahead of time, but I found that as long as the magnets looked flush or straight in the piece, they were fine. Did use a non-metallic item to sort of make sure that the magnet was all the way in. In this case, it was a coffee stir stick. And so with the top piece, just trimming off the post, and then just using a magnet, a little dab of super glue. You could score it as well. I didn't this time. And then I check the polarity. Always check the polarity, because there's nothing worse than putting on something and then realizing you did it wrong. So once the super glue is dried, just take it off. Take off the excess, and then you can just do a quick test fit, which in that case it worked perfectly. And then you just put on the side brackets so you can see the completed piece. Actually, it's not quite complete. I didn't put the little add-ons to the brackets, but those have gone on since. As you can see, the magnet fits there perfectly. So we'll move on to the Smasha gun. Probably the easiest of the 4, because all it is putting a 3 30-second magnet into the nose. Try not to use too much glue like I did. But just putting a 3 30-second magnet into the nose of the Smasha gun. and sealing that up with the plastic cement and the little bit of super glue on the other nose piece. I do hope to do a tactics video for these for the Smasha or for the Ork Mek Gun once I've played a few games and figure out which ones are the better of them. We've already sort of heard talk about which ones will potentially be good, but we'll wait and see and get a few games under our belt before we make any comments. So the top piece, I did this while the other one, the plastic cement was drying. So again, checking polarity. Actually, this one I checked the polarity and realized I had to reverse it, so I had to make sure I put it the other way. So got that into place, glued the two pieces together, and we're good to go. Again, you use the non-metallic tool to push it in, because using an X-Acto knife will cause you no end of, or a metal piece will cause you no end of annoyance. In this case, both the top piece and the end piece are working properly. So, bubble chukka. It's got to be one of the best names. So this one was a little bit of a challenge because it isn't one that just simply slides on. You have to keep it in two halves because of the guide rail underneath. So my approach was to take a magnet, two 3/32 magnets on both sides, and have that hold it in place. So basically you put the halves together. The bottom piece was a lot easier because there was more surface areas for the glue to attach to. So in this case, it's just putting a dab down, making sure it's as flush to the rest of the mat model as possible. Now the top one was a little bit trickier. I used a little bit of modeling putty. So in this case, it was the Privateer Press modeling putty, and used that as a place to basically sit the magnet into. This took a little bit of this was a bit challenging to do, to be honest, since I don't do any kind of sculpting or anything like that. But basically, I placed the magnet in there, then built up putty around it so it'll help it stay in place, and also used a bit of super glue in there as well. Don't use anything metal to do this because it'll cause you no end of pain. As you can see here, it's causing me a bit of a frustration. I finally clued in and started using my wooden coffee stirrer. And I actually put some more putty on it off camera as well to get everything in place. And you want to make sure it's as flush with everything else as well, so and you still be able to fully close it. So I did the rest off camera because doing it with the camera in front was a bit of a challenge. But as you can see, the putty is all the way around there, but there's enough room for the gun head component to sit in there and not be being touched as well. And so when it's in place, because of that bottom piece and the fact that the opening isn't wide enough to slide it on, you have to do it that way. So again, just cut off the post. This one was a bit of a challenge just because the piece itself was round. It wouldn't stay flat, so I had to do multiple cuts to get that post off. Same as before, just glue a magnet, check the polarity, and then just glue the magnet on the bottom, and you're good. Now onto the custom Mega Cannon. This one again was a bit of a challenge because you can't slide it on. You have to put the two halves together. So basically I found same approaches with the bubble chukka, except just using two magnets to hold it in place. This one, the one we're gluing right there, is a lot easier just because it fits the magnet perfectly. The other one you have to sort of, you'll have to rest a little bit, or you have to maneuver a little bit. But these are both 3/32 magnets. And that one you just have to, that one upper corner you have to be a little bit careful. And you could try the different corners and see what works well for you. This is just my approach. And just reverse it on the same side. Although it didn't make the final cut, I actually didn't reverse one of the magnet polarities properly. It sort of slipped out. I thought I did it right, but I didn't, so I had to take it out and put it back in again. But through the magic of video editing, you don't get to see that. So just make sure the magnets are in place. I think that's where I reversed my polarity. I was a little ticked, but it's okay. It came out okay in the end. Just again, talking about the importance of checking the polarity. There we go. And I just used a little bit of glue around there just to make sure it stayed in. Same thing with the top, just cut it off the post, put the magnet on top. I scored it a little bit there, and just a little dab of super glue, which I think I actually used a dab that time as opposed to what I've been doing every time before. Just checking the polarity. I was running out of magnets. I dropped a few went flying, so I don't have that long group of them anymore. And pro tip: don't glue your fingers together because it's a pain and not fun at all. It doesn't make for good videos or good models for that matter. And I should recommend that you use something other than an X-Acto knife to do all this, because in hindsight, having me do a bunch of stuff with the X-Acto knife, probably not the smartest thing. The only thing I would recommend with this one is if you find that you're not happy with how tight that nose piece is, you can use a small magnet on the outer ring part on the back.
After magnetizing everything, we now have, I'll do them in different order this time, but we've got the Smasha gun that fits right in there, and the magnet fits on top. So there we go, that fits nice and easy. And then you've got the bubble chukka, which not as clean as I would have liked it to be, but it still does the job. You've got the magnets there, and then the piece goes on top. So that one's complete. And take these off, you gotta be careful. And then you've got the custom mega cannon. This one actually worked out a lot easier than I originally anticipated, which is always a pleasant surprise. That one seems to go on okay. And then you've got your piece there. You can turn it sideways. The nice thing is you can put it whatever way you want. So that one looks good. It stays together relatively easily. And lastly, you have the tractor can, which is the first one we started with. And to be honest, this one was a lot easier than I anticipated, and I was quite happy with how good the side pieces worked as well. So yeah, for those people that want to, you could always put a little bit of putty over there just to level it out. To me, it just looks more arky with the stuff on there. Maybe even put a bolt or something there. So there we go. That's all of them.
Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more content like this, just click on the subscribe button. Also, if you do go through the steps and magnetize your own, feel free to send a picture to me at Twitter at DeffEdDice, or even post a response video. I'd love to see what people are doing, and if you have ways to improve or if you have other suggestions, by all means, throw them at us. We'd like to see it. So thank you again, and we'll have more content for you soon.